Basically, people from the Middle Kingdom aren't much different. Here are, so to speak, the working folks who sit day and night cutting, making, filing, assembling something. And here is the elite, so to speak, the office workers who sit and do some paperwork, completely occupied. A focused gaze, piles of papers, some circuit boards lying around. In general, everything is just the way we like it, friends, just like it is back home in Russia. And you still say that we're somehow different. People are the same everywhere. Do you feel this atmosphere at the Tonewinner factory? Beautiful music is playing, a girl is singing, there's this festive vibe. And behind me, take a look at how the transistors are being attached to the heatsink. No manual labor, everything is automatic. According to the workshop manager, the process has been optimized as much as possible. So each transistor is carefully attached to this rather large heatsink, which comes with extra fins because that dissipates heat even better. The girl is absolutely lovely, beautiful. Look at how gently she runs some kind of screwdriver over this heatsink and said something like, all good, everything's fine. Look, her uniform says T, 2300. By the way, this is the receiver that I think I took apart and tested about 2 years ago, and it showed very high results in terms of musicality. Back then, when I hadn't yet visited the Tonewinner factory and didn't know how everything was set up here, I immediately said, without any charts or measurements, guys, this receiver and Tonewinner's products are very serious. And now, after several years, we can see confirmation of my words. So, friends, don't trust all those charts as professionals who can hear much better than most measuring devices. I don't need a bunch of microphones or software to understand and evaluate all this. All I do is take the device, set it up, listen, and say, this is awesome, or it's not. That's why you can trust me. And back then, I immediately said that the 2300 completely destroyed the integrated amplifier from Ratel, friends, the receiver. You get it? Even though receivers by default always sound worse, but this device just crushed them all. And now we see why. Because here, the manufacturing is uncompromising. I don't know how Ratel is assembled. By the way, I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually assembled right here, just during the night shift and under much worse conditions, so to speak. Because all the best workers, all the prettiest girls, they're the ones making their branded products. And for some Europeans or Americans, they assign absolutely some kind of, well, you get the idea. So this is how you see the radiator, but this is how the assembler sees it, where all the transistors are actually located. And again, notice that they're all branded with Tonewinner written on them. With a simple movement of the hand, we remove the mold and get a structure that looks like this. So, what do you say now? Is it cool or not? A ceramic pad. Notice how small and at the same time thin it is. How is everything done here? We take, or rather, the folks at Tonewinner take, look, the woman places it, and then the transistor itself is attached to it, which is then again mounted to the radiator. And because of this, as they explained to me at the factory, conductivity is of higher quality. In simple terms, it means better heat dissipation. Let's try it out. How hard or easy is it to become a real Chinese worker? I think it's simple. For us Soviet guys, we've seen tougher things. So accordingly, we place the radiator, level it, then lower the mold, take this wooden tool and carefully tap it twice. No, wait, like this. We go over it, then lift it up. Listen, no, you see, I didn't do it very well. Let's try again. Now that's perfect feng shui. Perfect. I think we should sell this piece for a little more because it was made with double the love Russian love. You see? It already has a bit of an audiophile soul in it, so it will sound just a little warmer with even less distortion. 0.000000000009. Assembling the lower part, this is where the legs are attached. For this purpose, there is even a special diagram which shows where they should be attached. Here, in fact, are the legs themselves. Again, even then, I noticed that they had a rather interesting design. You see, they're shaped like a flower, I assume. That's so the leg itself is sturdier, and so that vibrations are dispersed around these semicircular curves. Actually, on the one hand, there is nothing complicated about it. But on the other hand, you can see that again, each part is separated. There is some people simply screw on the legs and then attach the radiators and power supply units. By the end of the assembly line, as you can see, almost the entire product will likely be assembled. This is a part from the latest product, which we'll take a look at later. Here we see two power supply units, one larger, the other smaller, and a capacitor with a capacity of how much do we have here? 6,800 microfarads. And again, branded heatsinks, small transistors. Everything is made quite well. Well, yes, here we see some glue, but I don't think it spoils the overall picture. In any case, it's clear that people here really know what they're doing. The woman just looked at us rather suspiciously, as if we're getting in the way of her work. But on the other hand, you can take a look and see for yourself just how interesting all of this is. Her screwdriver, of course, adjusts the torque so it won't apply more force than necessary. That's why the board naturally won't crack. There are 4 different types of bolts, all kept in separate containers, of course, so there's no chance of mixing them up. And next on the conveyor, we have the assembly of the terminals for this very amplifier or the latest receiver. Again, notice that each person is focused on their own task. That's why naturally they assemble their specific part much more efficiently and professionally. Because if you're assembling something as a whole, that's one thing. It's a different story if, for example, you're only assembling terminals or attaching heat sinks or gluing in a mold or applying a coating to those very heat sinks. So we can already understand what their latest product is. It's going to be a receiver because here we see HDMI and corresponding inputs and one output with the ARC. Again, the terminals, look at how everything is made. Listen, well, it's really cool. This receiver is going to be so slim apparently. And here is its corresponding part. And then it moves along the conveyor. Let's carefully put this mold back exactly as it was. And let's move on because next we have accordingly its front part. And here we can see roughly what it will look like. Pay attention to the thickness of the front panel. Everything is serious here. You could even use it for self-defense or as a bulletproof vest because if a bullet does get through, it would probably have to be from our Kalashnikov. Here, as I understand it, there will be a volume control, although it already says volume here. It will support Dolby Atmos, just like that. DTS, X and HDMI, of course. And traditionally, as the Chinese like to do, you can use a flash drive, although, in my opinion, that's already a bit of an anachronism. Personally, I don't listen to flash drives myself, but since they're making it and including it, it must mean someone needs it. As we say in Russia, it doesn't hurt to have a backup. If it's there, let it be. Let's see what happens next. They're just now attaching the volume knob, friends, and we can already see the screen there. So that's how it is. Listen, it's going to look beautiful. The girl on the right is carefully gluing everything. She has this white substance in a little bag and she's trying to apply it as carefully as possible around the edges so as not to touch or stain anything, making sure everything is done as well and properly as possible. Judging by the label, they're using Tremovsky glue. Well, what else would they use? Trem, I think, is an American brand. Friends, please let us know in the comments. So you could say it's a full package, Chinese, Korean equipment, American components, glue, Japan. Basically, they take the best from all over the world, which is why we get such a top-notch result. Here again, we have cables, harnesses, and the further we go down the assembly line, the more the final appearance takes shape, the very look you'll soon see on store shelves or on your own racks where you listen and enjoy high-quality sound. Here, accordingly, we have the left side. Yes, here there's a switching power supply. Most likely we won't see a toroidal transformer here. Although, who knows? Maybe they'll somehow fit it in further down the line. No, judging by everything, no, friends, there won't be a toroidal transformer. But overall, that's not such a big deal, considering that, again, this is mostly intended for movies. Although, of course, friends, when it comes to movies, I believe that if you want to build a truly uncompromising home theater, then everything should be separate. The power amplifier should be separate, and ideally, each amp should drive a single channel. Then we connect all of this to the processor, to the source, and only then will you get the best possible sound. For now, I want to show you another diagram where Once again, everything is labeled so that, God forbid, the assembler doesn't forget or mix anything up. You can always look up and check whether he assembled something correctly or not. The next step is to install the fan which is attached accordingly to this heatsink. And we end up with this interesting setup. You can see that here, most likely, warm air is being drawn in and pushed through to here, and then it exits outside. Maybe I'm mistaken. Perhaps it's actually drawing in cold air from here, passing it through the cooling radiator, and then blowing it into the case, right onto the power supply. That's a mystery for you, my friends. So please write in the comments how you think the airflow goes from outside in or the other way around, from inside out. A very important man. Pay attention to him because he's the one who checks everything for functionality, let's say for appearance, for key components. She inspects all of that. Look at how he grabs the volume knob, the control dial. Now, accordingly, he's going to put the knob itself on to see whether it turns or not. Again, he checks the appearance of the button to make sure, God forbid, that nothing is scratched or covered in glue, and to see how well the guys before him installed everything. And of course, he will also check its functionality using his device. They really examine everything thoroughly, because earlier I stood and watched how he does all this. He needs quite a decent amount of time for each device. And the most interesting thing is that if he slows down, the entire conveyor stops, so he has no room for mistakes. It's precisely because of guys like this that I've always been confident in Tonewinner's quality, because in all the time I've tested or installed this equipment, not one Senocon wood does anything broken. Now it all makes sense, because here the team is absolutely determined not to make any mistakes. Just look at how many of them are here. There's work going on everywhere, everyone is busy with their own tasks. The production process is uncompromising. Watch, now he's checking it. Alright, he picked up the tester. Let's see, let's watch. Okay, he's inserting it. That's it. Apparently it's showing the reference values. And by the way, he doesn't have any schematic on top like those other guys did. Apparently, he keeps everything in his head. This guy is truly top tier elite. He does, however, have a Mao Zedong banknote. I guess it helps him get inspired for work, and if, God forbid, he makes a mistake, he probably immediately imagines what could happen to him. When the assembler starts to lose concentration, all he has to do is look up, gaze at the beautiful face of his leader, and everything immediately falls into place. He gets fully recharged with this communist energy, and the assembly process starts up again, as if he just arrived in the morning, well fed, showered, and full of strength and energy. The guys from the Celestial Empire don't really understand what they're doing here. Basically, they're just some top-tier components. And their approach is actually super impressive, because with every product, look, there's this card included with its own stamp and a signature confirming that each device has been checked. And they just attach it like this to the receiver or to the amplifier or to the speakers and then put it somewhere. As far as I understand, they store them somewhere. But guys, if you would just include this card with each device, it would really feel to us, the consumers, like a genuine handmade product. Bryson, for example, includes a large sheet with measurements, quality control checks, and who performed the inspection. And here, with regular standard receivers, it's almost the same thing. And that's really cool. And then we wonder, why do the Chinese sound so good? Well, friends, it's because everything is truly checked without compromise. This is the highest level. Behind me is one of the factory's top audiophiles. He checks the equipment for functionality, testing each channel with oscilloscopes and possibly his own ears. But that's not certain. How much more can you possibly check? I'm just amazed. Another quick check. Because not only does this person screw on the top cover, there's only one here, but he also visually inspects the device again to see if everything is alright, blows it with air so that not a single speck of dust settles on it. Meet Mr. Jong. He's the one who decides what will happen with your device. Whether it will work right out of the box or not, I trust him, my friends. Do you? Let me know in the comments. The very last and toughest, as I was told, shock test, which is again carried out using these two devices. You can see what it says on them. 10 amp tester. Let's see how this shock test is going to be conducted now. Once again, a different person is checking the terminals, checking the pins, inspecting the appearance. Look, now he put something underneath it. He's inserting. What did he insert? A cable? I just didn't catch it, friends. He plugged in the power cable and... Will this device pass the test? 2, 1, go. Stop. It passed everything. Now he can calmly climb. No, there's one more test. Yeah, that's right. There are 2 tests. That's correct. 2 tests. No compromises. Well, I think it will pass. Judging by how many people are inspecting all this, there are simply no compromises here. And again, you see he records it, puts his individual stamp on it. Everyone has their own stamp. Once again, it seems I trusted Mr. Zhang more than the company did, because this is yet another test which lasts several hours. In general, according to the engineers, each component undergoes testing for a certain number of hours. In this case, these receivers will be tested for at least 2 hours. And with the help of these, as I understand it, resistors, they sort of emulate the acoustics. After that, the engineers take the readings and determine whether the device has functioned properly or not. The longest test at the factory lasts 10 hours, friends. Yes, you might say that Bryson, for example, undergoes a 100-hour test. But you have to understand, Bryson is produced in completely different quantities, and these guys simply don't have the capacity to test for such a long period. Nevertheless, I believe that even 5 or 6 hours is quite enough to determine how your equipment will perform, especially considering that it has already been checked 10 times before that. Just look at how many devices can be tested here at MOS. There are a whole 3 floors, and each one is connected, each with its own card, where the number is carefully attached and it has gone through, look, 1, 2, 3, 4 checks. Hey, there's still more space here. My goodness, how much more can you possibly test all this? Guys, we've already realized that everything will work without a doubt, probably even in space. I've even lost my voice at this point. And here, as you can see, some new devices connected. I guess they made it for someone in particular. By the way, I haven't seen anything like this before. It's probably an amplifier or a streamer. Naturally, everything is in Chinese, just the way they like it. Although, of course, I wish there was an English option, because in China, that's always a challenge. Even when you try to order a taxi, like with the Didi app, it seems to be in English, but half of it is still in Chinese. What can you do? That's just their mentality. We're not exactly their primary market, so why would they bother? American tech has its own style, and European tech has its own approach. Now I understand why Chinese music sounds so good on Chinese equipment, because it's already infused with those motifs that permeate the entire factory. It's even managed to reach my heart. I've practically lost my voice because these machines are constantly making noise here. And then that loud music starts up again. But I still want to convey everything to you as truthfully, accurately, and honestly as possible. So let's keep going. This long conveyor belt leads to another specialist who will check every function, every menu, every button. Again, the appearance, everything will be thoroughly inspected. So you can see the scale of production for yourself. I think there's really no need for further comment. And over there, by the way, look, a man in the distance is testing the device right now. This wonderful young man in glasses over there, he's the one playing Chinese music. And look, he has a duplicate screen there. Yes, that's how it is.